This is Data Trader Pro with our nightly wrap for Monday, January the 11th. So basically we'll pick up from where we left off on the weekend. We did a nightly wrap on the 8th, which was Friday, suggesting that some signs that a bottom was coming. And actually everything sort of pretty much played out that way today, although, you know, obviously a bottom is only totally confirmable in the rearview mirror. I'll show you some signs that we have seen that help, along with that case that a bottom, at least in the indexes, might be upon us. So it's early stages, but we've seen some healthy signs. So market sectors, still quite a bit of negativity, but we're getting some green, and these are all closing values. So we closed up on most of the indexes, or at least well off their lows. Indices there's some divergence, again, as mentioned before in the videos, that's not terribly healthy, so we'd like to see that improve. Russell's the lagger. Both NQ and the Dow going green. Dow never making a lower low than its overnight low today, so that was kind of an interesting potential bottom setup. S&P closing basically flat. Market map will show us all the advanced decline ratios. We ended green on NQ. Trin very bullish, well, quite bullish on NQ. Net volume positive. The advanced declines on NYSE and the Nasdaq exchanges, both negative, but not heavily so. We'll confirm that on the breadth page shortly. Advanced declines on the Dow ended positive. Russell just shy, basically flat. So S&P 500 flat. It's red, but -1 is flat basically. So yeah, so a real extreme on the 52-week lows. So a lot of individual stocks have probably put in a bottom today. We'll see how that number shapes up tomorrow. That's the NYSE. The Nasdaq, same thing. The ratio between the 52-week highs and 52-week lows is at an extreme. So we can actually check that on daily internals. Daily internals. Hopefully, this is just after close, so hopefully these have updated. Sometimes the data for daily close doesn't update right away. But yeah, basically down here, these are the this is the NYSE high versus lows, and we've been basically bottomed out for a few days here. Yeah, so it looks like we have closing from today. So yeah, that's the 11th. So basically we can't really go any lower. We're as low as we pretty much ever get, right? Which is like everything's hitting new lows, and there's nowhere to go but up, right? So same thing on Nasdaq index. We basically hit a wall on the bottom. I mean, it doesn't mean the market can't go down at all, but it's a lot less likely from a place where you've already hit the ground, basically. So the Nasdaq Composite, RSI's bottoming, potentially a nice hammer candle there. Same thing on the NYSE Composite, very oversold, somewhere between a hammer and a doji here, but it's looking positive. Trends moving down. The Nasdaq combined Trin, but that's very bullish, and we're below 1 on the trends. If you don't know, one is like 0. 1 is the demarcation line between bearish, and bearish is above. The higher the number on Trin gets, the more bearish things get. Below 1 is bullish, and something like 0.2 is very bullish on Trin. So let's move on to the trend page. We had another neutral range day on the indicators, and you can see how we started out, very narrow range, a little bit of buying, a little bit of selling, and then it sort of widened and opened up. And we started selling off, and it looked like things might continue down. But basically, the ES, which is the E-mini S&P futures, the overnight low was only broken by one handle, and there was an immediate rejection off those lows, and we popped about 15 points, and then we never got down there again. So the dollar-weighted buying pressure shot up in the last half an hour of the day into a green close. So the MCC, which is our version of the McClellan, but an intraday version of the McClellan oscillator, was red all day. So a bit of divergence here between the dollar-weighted and the MCC. But I think that'll resolve itself tomorrow. If we truly did put in a local bottom here, then both of these will be green tomorrow, and we may see a bullish trend day up tomorrow. We'll have to see. The net issues were still negative, but not heavily so. We're not in. This isn't bear market stuff right here until we get into the below 1,000 generally. So net volume, yeah, a little bit bearish, but not bad at all. So we'll see. This is the second day where internals were in much better shape than market price, and when we see those types of divergences, we know that a trend change, or at least a short-term trend change, is upon us very, very shortly. So that's one of the points of this site, is to be able to pick out divergences like that and see them coming before price changes. And usually with these tools, we can see them coming a mile away. So yeah, so the breadth page, the advanced declines, NYSE slightly bearish as noted on the other page. Nasdaq slightly bearish. These are on the exchange level. Russell index, it's just past, between 1 and -1, since these are ratio adjusted, a -1 to 1 and a positive 1 to 1 is basically the same thing. So things don't start getting bad until you get out of the gray neutral range and start getting beyond 2, -2 to 1 or 2 to 1 positive. So we're basically in the fairly neutral range here. Trends, except for Russell's not terribly bullish here, but both Nasdaq and the NYSE are. So volume, Nasdaq stayed bearish all day. The other one's slightly bearish to neutral. Okay, so something to watch. Given this, I would watch the Nasdaq index closely tomorrow. If we see a big improvement here, that'll be reflected in the trend. We'll see a trend dropping. And that'll segue nicely into volatility, which saw quite a bleed off today, especially at the end of the day. VIX never really went green today. It might have gone green barely, like in a 1/10% or a 20th% or something like that range. But basically, the whole volatility space sold off today. We're still in backwardation on the futures curve, which means that the front month future is higher than the near month, the next expiry. So that's a bit of a so it's not a great situation for things like XIV, but it will help propel VXX, which is the inverse. But with volatility dropping so much, that's probably only a matter of time before we go from backwardation back to zero and then into its more normal state, which is contango. So yeah, volatility is definitely confirming that we may have had a trend change today. So let's look at the block trades because some interesting things happened there to also confirm. So you're getting the theme that we've had a good down move. We've had 200 points off on ES roughly, maybe 190 points to 200 points off the last local high. That's almost a 10% move. When indexes correct 10%, that's a healthy correction. They're almost always will be buying off those levels. So not saying that we've escaped a potential bear market start. I'm just saying that locally with a roughly 10% correction in most indexes, then look for buying, because people will see value and see opportunity, at least short-term opportunity, and look to buy. And it's exactly what we saw today. You can see pattern continues, which is sell the highs, buy the lows. And what we've got now is a very large block trade. On another feed I have, there are actually two identical trades of this size. But yeah, at least one very large block trade here on SPY. Some here on the Qs, although we had our big ones on Friday on the Qs. We broke those levels but bounced right back up. So I wouldn't say that this went really that bearish ever. We got a little lower today on NQ and QQQ, but we bounced right back up and closed above the levels of these block trades, which are basically at 104. Some corresponding, smaller, but definitely some activity on IWM. We'll have to see if that continues tomorrow. IWM was the least bullish percentage-wise of the indexes, so maybe it's a little bit of a slow starter, or maybe it's saying that we're not really ready to rocket from here. We'll have to see. Volatility, ETPs, or exchange traded products. We had a big print, big for VXX, up right near the high of the day. That is a classic selling pattern, and price turned immediately. You see what happened to price when it hit. Somebody sold 2.5 million shares. There were probably some more sells here. There's 2 million shares. We came off of VXX was at 19 a few days ago. So running up to 26 was a huge move. Above 26, almost 27. So there were some sells today in the market. Volatility tends to collapse. It doesn't tend to make slow moves. Moves to the upside in VXX and the VIX tend to be slow to start, and they gain steam, but when they turn, they usually turn in a V shape or an inverse V shape and come right off. So we came off a fair bit at the end of the day. So that's it. Some things are brewing in energy, oil in particular. Natural gas had a good long run for quite a while. There was a fair bit of selling today. Really we have to see UNG above the maybe $9 range to kind of think that maybe this was corrective and we'll move back up, but we don't know that yet. So we'll just wait. We, again, as always, use these block trades as lines of demarcation. You don't have to second guess this type of trading. You just use, UNG above 8.97. Well, let's say $9 to be fair. Should continue climbing. If it doesn't, if we get back up here from these levels and get rejected, then we're going to test the 849, 850 level, and from there back down. So we'll have to see. Hopefully we have a continued market in this, because it's been a great trade, but it may be, we may have seen the worst of the winter yet, and it's not been a very bad winter. So natural gas usage is down, and storage levels are high, so supply and demand says that perhaps we might have had our pop this year. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll watch these block prints regardless, and keep you updated. Oil, USO, a lot of activity, moving down. I mean, these were likely sells because price traded lower. These are very, all the smaller light gray bubbles here are continuation trades. They just keep moving them along until a big transaction happens. Then you either get a reversal or you get continuation, and that's why I say you have to use these as lines of demarcation. If you assume that this is a buy before you do anything and you go long your whole account here, and then you wake up in the morning and it's gapped down, well, that's a not fun way to find out that it was actually a sell instead of a buy. So the best thing to do with these is to wait. Here you could have taken a nice short, right below this level if it failed. I would have looked at this and maybe said, well, maybe they're buying here, some stuff that looks like it could have been a buy here and some more here and here, but obviously they weren't yet. Or somebody was willing to take quite a big hit. Oil was down over 6% today, so I'm not sure that many players are willing to take a 6 or 8% hit waiting for it to come back. So these are sells until proven otherwise. Oil's getting quite extended, on other technicals, and I would imagine that a reversal is coming fairly soon. But again, we'll look for it in the block prints. We're not going to front run it. So I can't wait to get long oil, at least for a healthy bounce. But I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the big buy print. Big. They're, at this stage, with how oversold it is, the buy prints should be huge. And then as soon as price gets above there, we're going long. That's how I'm going to trade it. Yeah, I think that should cover it for today. Note that we do have a blog page. On the blog page, I will post these videos. You will be able to click on them. This is the one from Friday. They're embedded. You can also click on them and go to YouTube. We have a YouTube page. We're going to be adding some features to the site shortly. I consider this always a work in progress, and it can always be improved. One thing that I've noted is that there's no real way to interact with people during the day that's effective. So I'm thinking about creating a chat room, or at least something like a message stream that I can post updates in. So stay tuned for that. We're also going to be working on a longer term SPY block trades and signals combined page. So I'm going to make a page that is going to make life much easier for you SPY and SP500 index traders. I think that's the most popular index to trade. So there's a lot of technical signals and information out there. I'm going to combine a bunch of things into a page that's going to make SPY trading much easier for people. So, and easier to see the turning points, which is really what trading is all about, is spotting the turning points, confirming that you're correct on that thesis, and then taking advantage of it, really. Okay, that's it. January the 11th, 2016, daily, nightly market wrap. Thanks for joining. We'll see you tomorrow.